Hello everyone and welcome to another Starcraft2 video. For this one, we are going to continue our bot series as we try to power through all the way up to the lead up for the official Pro Bots Gauntlet tournament. Last we left off, we were down with Tier Z going on a bit of a run, having beaten Worthless Bot to break Worthless Bot's 3-0 streak and continue to beat Kagamine, Chance, and Wizard Hat. So next opponent is going to be a Terran bot called Stimo, who I assume has to make Stim Marines with that name. Otherwise, I'll be extremely disappointed. Made by Immortal. No bio. We can see it was created very recently. So at the time I'm recording this, it's less than 2 months old. So, but at a pretty decent rank. You know, to have such a new bot at such a high rank is pretty impressive. I mean, new bots start at 1600 ELO, and being brand new compared to all these veteran bots, you're likely to drop when you first start coding, but he ended up actually rising up to 1711, so that's pretty cool. Let's see what he has in store for us here as I load up the replay. Didn't quite get things set up right on the left here. You go there, go like that. All right. So ZVT, we have seen different compositions out of tier. We've seen some Ling Hydra, we've seen some Roach Ravager. We've seen a very strong defense in response to a pool first. And yeah, let's get going. All right, spawning in the top right, we have the returning champion. It is the Red Zerg Tier Z in the bot. Whoa. I'm Canadian. I should be saying Z. Sometimes this Z just sounds better. I guess it reminds me of like Daisy or like all the zombie stuff you say Z with. Anyways, in the bottom left, we have the blue Terran. It is Stimo. So the correct pronunciation of that letter is actually Z in English. It's something that the Americans changed, but I think the Americans are probably correct. For one very important reason, the alphabet song does not rhyme if you use Z. Grew up in kindergarten singing that song. It's like, nope, this isn't right. LMNOP, it's got to rhyme with P. Can't say Z at the end of the next line. Second rack's going out down for Stim in surprise to no one. Let's see if he does take gas though. Perhaps Stimo's on stage 1 and he's just massing Marines at the moment. I did notice a lot of bots are kind of abusing my Planetary Fortress expand. So I have added a new build to my bot, which is just a 7 racks all in. So something I can mix in to try to keep the opponent bots honest versus my very passive defensive opener. And I think it's pretty strong. You just kind of don't get gas and spend all your minerals and mules and every speck of minerals you get on Marines and have like somewhat okay Marine micro. You can get a lot of work done with that. So I don't think we're going to be seeing Stimo to Stimo, so I'm highly disappointed. I'm already calling the loss for Stimo because of that reason. But we are seeing a build that looks very familiar to the one I just wrote the other day, as a 4th barracks is going down. It does have a problem with this SCV here. I think maybe I tried to build like a barracks here or something like that, but this guy's a little stuck. Don't know how that came to be. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, we do have a hatch. Well, we kind of missed it. But yeah, this is probably the build where he went hatch, pool, Roach Warren. He does have a gas of the natural. I was about to say Roach Warren without gas on the way is not a good idea. But there is enough gas there. And 1 gas is plenty if you're going roaches. Roaches are very mineral intensive. The Roach Warren itself doesn't cost any gas. Overlord is heading back home. So again, if we look at Tier's vision, okay, he did get a scout in. So I keep missing this. So this has happened the other match too, where there was a drone scout. So he saw like 4 barracks and the lack of gas. That is enough information for a human to know exactly what's coming. I'm not sure if that's the case for Tier or not. There is a spine crawler on the way. bringing up the production tab. Just a lot of drones though. It does appear he's going for multi spines, and these Marines are kind of waiting to cluster up. Normally this is a good idea. You don't want to go in, you know, with your Marines just like rallied across the map two at a time. But at the same time, his window of opportunity to overrun tier is quickly closing as the spine finishes. And a second queen at the front. Third queen at the front. Okay, this is just kind of timed out perfectly, I think, for tier. Let's see if he micros the queens back. He does not. One roach is out. Okay, so it's kind of losing these units a little bit piecemeal. But he did get out the spine. The next spine will finish in time to do something. Might only get off like one swing though. Or it might not finish at all. Okay, no, it's done. It doesn't even look like Stimo was wanting to attack. He just kind of wanted to hang out here, and Tyr walked into him. So 5 roaches on the production tab. If he pulls workers to fight with it, it could be good. It looks like he pulled a whole bunch of workers back home. So maybe he's abandoning the natural. A couple drones coming in, which is nice. If nothing else, they soak up 45 hit points of damage, which isn't going into a roach or a queen. Yeah. Oh, no, he's trying to build spines again, I think is what was happening there. Just based on the way those workers stopped. So not looking good for tier at all. I do like the production tab. I'm not seeing any workers or layer tech going up. All the money is going into roaches and queens. But popping out one at a time, unless he just happens to start popping these one-hit Marines, I just don't see how this can hold. Now, there is an opportunity here where, you know, he can produce units at home, but, you know, he's not saving them. The queen, they're instantly dying. Like, this can soak up damage for a while, and then the broodlings might be able to finish off a couple of these red-lined workers. No. Yeah, and actually drones on the production tab, which are kind of needed. He's down to half a base of economy. I think this is going to be an overrun. Let's see how many barracks that Stimo got up to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 racks all in. Out of interest. So Stimo stays... He keeps all of his money spent. And he's not building more supply depots than he needs. I always thought 7 racks... Like 6 racks is a little more efficient. You don't get full value out of the 7th, but you needed, if you wanted to actually spend every penny of minerals, you needed 7 barracks. Perhaps that's not the case though. I'm going to have to take a close look at some of my replays. I might have to switch my 7 racks build into a 6 racks build, because it appears that Stimo was capable of spending all of his money with just 6 barracks. In fact, there's even 1 barracks that's not producing anything right now. Sometimes when you're losing a lot on the other side of the map, you don't have to build supply depots. And for that reason, you might pool up more money. And maybe in that situation, the 7th racks will come in handy. You know, if they're constantly battling where he never go above 50 supply, then all of a sudden you don't need like 4 more supply depots, and you got 400 minerals that's going unspent. Stimo also had an issue with 1 idle SCV, which actually doesn't look idle anymore. Did it fix itself? No, it's still just sitting there. So perhaps that cost him some minerals. So maybe 7 racks is correct. It could also be that maybe people did 7 racks all in back in the day just because we suck as humans and we supply block ourselves and we miss production cycles. But if you do it perfectly like a bot, you can make do with 6. Not quite sure. But with that said, Tier Z is in the scrap pile. He did get to 4-0, only the second bot to get past the elusive, to get the elusive 4th win. We've had plenty of 3-0 bots. Let's see if I can remember them all. Let's go back here. Back in the early days, I think one of Nickbot Zerg, I think, got up to 3 wins, and then Nickbot Learns, I think, also got to 3 wins. So the Nickbots did well. Lucid Z, I think, was doing well as well. Terran 004, I know we got up to 6 wins. I'm saying this all out loud as if you can see it. Okay. Yeah, so I believe it was Nickbot Zerg, Nickbot Learns, Lucid Z got to 3-0, Terran 004 got beyond that. Yeah, so these are all Terran kills. Doogie Houtzer, I think, maybe got to 3-0, or maybe it was just the one win. I can't recall. Too long ago. I have the feeling the Fire might have hit 3-0. And that was probably the last one. Yeah, so we had like maybe 3 to 5 3-0 bots. And Tier being only the second bot to get beyond that, get up to 4. So he is out. Stimo will go on, but there will be more tiers in the future. Not just Zerg tiers, but we got his random bot, we got his Terran bot, and then his powerhouse, which is his Protoss bot. Yeah, so let's just hop right into the next game, I guess. Next game, whoops. I did not exit that correctly. The way these bot games load, it's actually easier just to exit StarCraft2 altogether and then load from the replay file. Otherwise, you get stuck like having to relog in all the time. Battle.net is not a fan of these bot replays for some reason. Possibly because it's on a different version, which it always has issues with. But even when it's on the same version, it's not a fan of them. All right, so this match will be on Pillars of Gold. Let's just go ahead and pause it as soon as it starts, actually. And take a look at the opponent, because we didn't actually look at that. So next opponent will be Rusty, another one using the Sharpie framework, written by the author of the Sharpie framework. He built a whole bunch of like basic sample bots, and then also like a more solid one for each race. So really great resource, like even if you're not using Python, just to have all these practice bots. Like how would my bot do against Mass Void Rays? How will my bot do versus a Lurker Rush? You know, we got these whole series of these basic bots to practice against. Yeah, so part of the Sharpened Edge family. Sharpened Edge is the main Protoss bot, and then I'm actually not sure what happened. I think it started with Sharpened Edge, and then he developed it into the framework he called Sharpie, and who knows if Rusty is based off of Sharpened Edge or if Rusty is using the actual Sharpie framework, but if it wasn't, it was a predecessor to it. Got some influence mapping. That's kind of cool. That's you might see some nice macro or micro based off of that. Some pathing. And yeah, okay. All right, so now we're ready to go. Was that not visible? Oh well, who cares? I was reading out loud. There wasn't much information there. But made by Dr. Impy. One of our best developers in the scene. That was a little interesting. Should I make a depot? Nah, it's too early. Nah. I think that's probably to do with the fact he's trying to guess when to move the worker over here based on his income rate, so that he arrives when he has 100 minerals. And maybe he guessed and is like, nope, I'm wrong. And then he tried again, it's like, nope, I'm wrong. And that's why he was kind of hesitant going back and forth. But that is the red Terran Rusty spawning in the top right-hand position. Meanwhile, in the bottom left, we have Stimo, the blue Terran. Now, I will have to remember to bring up the production tab and periodically to bring up the APMs as well, because maybe I'll need to find a new interface. I don't see it cycling at the bottom here. I'll just try to find the official GameHeart interface that does that. But the APMs are always interesting with bots. Right now, the mere 40 and 160, but we will be seeing very commonly bots well into the 5-digit APMs, sometimes even 6 digits. In terms of the builds, I mean, Stimo, we're going to be seeing the same thing. We got the 2 barracks, adding the 3rd. Rusty is poking around here, so getting good vision of it. Meanwhile, on his side of the map, he did go for the early Reaper, the Orbital, and getting a bunker and a second barracks. Now that's almost certainly in response to what he's scouting. Now he scouted the 3 racks with this worker. I think this defense is to try to stay alive. Now let's see how good his unit micro is. Sometimes you build a bunker and then you don't code beyond that, so your units still go do whatever they're going to do and the bunker just stays there empty. But in this case, he's staying nearby. This is actually probably a good way to use bunkers as a bot, is not to actually enter the bunker until there's an enemy threat. That way these units are available to be mobile. So if like a drop comes in over here, you can immediately respond to it, but if something's getting close to your bunker, then you can load up the bunker. With that said, I think the Marines are going directly into the bunker. The Reaper will be remaining outside, which makes sense. It can regenerate, it can move really fast in micro. It has grenades it can throw, so it can stay alive in its own respect. It doesn't need a bunker to stay alive, and then it gains the ability to use its abilities, like the regen and the Reaper grenade. KDH charge. So originally the KDH charge, it was like a sticky bomb. You would throw it onto a structure and it'd stick there and then blow up the depot or whatever. Similar to, oh man, Command and Conquer. Those Tanyas in Command and Conquer. 2, 3, 4, 5 barracks, 6 barracks. So I guess the best way to use barracks is just build them as you need them. That way you don't have to worry about it, whether it's a 5 racks all in, 6 racks all in, or 7 racks all in. It'll handle things better if you get cheesed yourself. Unfortunately, with the way I've written my bot, it's not. I can't really build in that generic way and have the rest of my bot function correctly. So I had to hard code like a 7 racks build order. But my standard builds are much more generically based, where there's not much like build order, like build this and this and this, and it's a much more generated, like build depots as you need them, build production as you gain resources, you know, expand as available. Siege tank blocking his own expansion position, or his own depot position, and it looks like the SCV is stuck, still trying to make this, and until this tank moves, he's going to keep trying to make a depot here. Which means he might get supply blocked and stay supply blocked, depending on whether he builds another depot elsewhere. He also has an idle SCVs over here. Another big patch of Marines coming across the map, but they will get slaughtered. This looks like a really nice defense. I wonder if this could even hold Scarlet's 4-gate. I wouldn't think about this low in the ladder can hold Scarlet's 4-gate, but I can't imagine a better defense than this. These tanks are perfectly positioned where the stalkers can't get at them, but they can shoot anything that touches the ramp. And then obviously a bunker and a wall off of the ramp is really nice versus a 4-gate as well. I like this response as well, you know, when he's trying to expand. Build a bunker at your natural choke point and siege up the tanks there. Looks like Rusty's trying to get on the offense. But he lost a batch of Marines, so the tanks decided not to do that. And one of them is unfortunately stuck in a more vulnerable position. Although at this point, I don't think there's going to be much threat out of Stimo anymore. I mean, there are a lot of Marines coming, but will they all group up together? And if they do, will they still get obliterated by the tanks just because they're all grouped up together? It's kind of a catch-22. You come in piecemeal and you can't actually win the fight. You come in together and you're just going to get massacred by splash damage. With the 3rd tank, I think this game is more or less over. I'm tempted to speed it up, but we'll wait until Rusty moves out. Weird things can happen when you move out. Maybe you go all the way across the map and then Stimo comes in and kills you, and then you go all the way back to try to defend, and by that point it's too late. Maybe instead it becomes some sort of base trade where they both kill each other. If Rusty moves across the map and just walks through his opponent's rally line, then it won't be much of an issue. But I could see if they pass each other in the middle of the map where things could get weird. Yeah, so once that's tank move, it was able to build the depot. This SCV is still bugged out. I'm pretty sure this has a current task. It's like it's trying to build something and it can't, is my guess. Maybe waiting for this orbital to move, which will never happen, so it just stays there forever. Oh boy. Oh, I got a nice little high ground spot here. Oh, but it is moving into siege tank range. Another siege tank sieging up in position. Okay, I'm going to speed this up, I believe. Let's go up to 4x. Might take a while. I think Rusty waits until he has a certain marine count, and then he starts pushing out with his tanks and marines. But then the marines die quickly, and he cancels that attack. So many tanks. Alright, let's slow it down for the final push, I guess. It does look like he's interested in sieging the natural, but there is no natural. The marine support is almost non-existent at this point, so there are some rallying across the map, but at this point it doesn't even matter. Just the tanks alone, it can handle this many unupgraded marines. These marines are kind of stimming themselves to death. Like, Rusty did get the stim upgrade because he's progressing well in the tech. If we go to upgrades, which is G. Okay, just getting +1 now, but he does have stim and combat shield. I think using stim correctly when you don't have medevacs can be difficult because it's lots of little simple decisions, but many decisions. Like, every situation is a little bit different about whether you want to stim or not and how many units to stim. So I think, given the simplicity of bots' decision making, that stim may not be that good, or possibly it may even be bad if you don't have medevacs. With that said, we do have medevacs now, so that is a mute point. And yeah, congratulations to Rusty, taking out the one-time champion of Stimo. But Stimo's got a great basic bot, you know. You can proxy like 4 barracks and do really well, or you can build a whole bunch more barracks at home. Gives you more units, makes your initial attack weaker, but your follow-up attack stronger. And that's a good basic bot to start with, you know. You can actually win some games with like just overpowering your opponents with some early cheese. And you got a starting point, you know. From there you can make an orbital and call down mules. Maybe you can take an expansion, like maybe instead of going 6 racks all in, you try going 5 racks and then expand when you have enough money, and then get another orbital. And maybe just do mass expanding style, where every time you take another base, you add on 20 workers and you add on 4 more barracks or something like that. And then it might transition into a later game. Or you can try going up the tech tree. But anyways, it's a good starting point. It's a good simple bot you can start with. Rusty is moving on, and he will be facing Better Worker Rush. So Better Worker Rush is the probe rushing bots that I've discussed in the past. Very powerful. Now, for humans, when you think of Worker Rush, you think of Zerg, right? You can do an extractor trick, you can make your units much faster, and you have just more units for your Worker Rush. Probes, you can't do any of those things. You can chrono boost out 1 probe, I guess, but you'll always arrive with far less workers than your opponent has. Now, the advantage of probes is if you imagine each probe being perfectly microed, right? Where they're always attacking. But if their shields are down, they'll avoid enemy damage. So they'll still threaten the attack, they'll still go after structures, they'll still attack things, but anytime an SCV gets near it, it'll back up, right? Until it regenerates its shields again, and then it continues to go in. So you just have this constant wave of, like, if you A move like 40 SCVs against 10 probes, the 10 probes will win without losing a single one, right? They just keep backing up as they lose their shields. So it's an interesting concept. I think this bot could actually beat a lot of human players, because you would think it would be an easy hold, and then you would realize, oh, it wasn't an easy hold. And yeah, it creates a lot of headaches for new bot authors. You get on the ladder and all of a sudden you can't even beat workers. Kind of requires some special defense. So probably the one, as I load the game here, probably the one cheese that bots are best against is Worker Rush. You know, bots in general are really bad at executing cheese and really bad for that reason at defending cheese, because they don't get good practice. So you can like cannon rush a bot really simply. But Worker Rush, we got some really advanced Worker Rush bots. There's other ones like that Drone, which we didn't get to see at its best, but it really abuses the fact of mineral walking and staying stacked. Yeah, and for that reason, we have some advanced defenses versus Worker Rush as well. Anyways, speaking of Worker Rush, there go the probes, and it looks like the only 50 minerals was chronoed into another probe, which will join him across the map. So this will be a quick one. I fell behind on my video output. I was trying to do two a day to reach the deadline I have, and I fell behind, but maybe if Better Worker Rush goes on a little bit of a streak, we will be able to catch up. So going after this SCV here, so that's one free kill. No, it doesn't get him. Okay, it does get him down. Okay, now in come the SCVs. Yeah, so anytime they're off cooldown, they micro backwards. Anytime they have no shields, they just kind of stay out of range. So you see how they're threatening? They're always threatening, so you can't go back to mining. But if you actually get near them and they don't have shields, then they'll retreat off the attack. So has a probe even gone down? No, just the two SCVs. Now he's kind of retreating into SCVs, so he might be losing one here. It's tough to say. Notice these probes in the back, they're staying far back, so they have no shields. And all of a sudden the worker's lost is 11-1. And that's against a Terran who had a worker lead. Like, by the time these probes arrived, he must have been at... Oh, it looks like two workers chase one probe all across the entire map. Yeah, he must have had like probably a 2 or 3 worker lead by the time he arrived, plus the threat of Marines coming. And with that, Killer Cheese. One Marine finally does get out, so it's not going to be enough. If you can get out a Reaper and your bot has good pathfinding with Reapers, then you can like win against an infinite amount of probes. You'd have to... The probe rushing bot would have to get lucky to trap you somehow. Now, I don't think Better Worker Rush can deal with a floating command center. I don't think there's any real follow-up code to deal with that, so that might... This could end in a draw in one of these matches. With that said, easy come, easy go, there goes Rusty. And Better Worker Rush will continue on. He will be going up against Paul next. So Paul is also a very cheesy bot. For his level. Like, he's qualified for tournaments before, and usually you can't just be like a one-hit cheese bot and get that high, but he's managed to do it. He's a big fan of the Nidusworm play, so Nidus rushing the opponent and catching these macro bots off guard. With that said, though, Paul has also developed a strong macro game. I haven't seen him use it in tournaments yet, but I have seen it on the ladder, and it looks pretty solid, you know? Multiple bases, creep spread, you know, good composition. So he's becoming a very well-rounded bot from what was from his cheesy beginnings. Yeah, so you're using Python SE2. There's 3 things you need to know about Python. There's 3 frameworks, I guess. There's the Python SE2 framework, which sometimes is called Bernie SE2 or Bernie's fork, because the original creator of the Python SE2 framework kind of stopped supporting it, so Bernie took over. And that's like a really good spot for scripting Python bots. On top of that, there's a framework which does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. It's built on top of Python SE2 called Sharpie. I'd say maybe half the Python bots use it, and it just makes life so much easier. But it does some of the fun programming for you. So, maybe you want to save that for yourself. And then, yeah, and then there's also PySE2. And that is another Python interface. You might have seen some YouTube videos about it. It's the one the AlphaStar used. And I wouldn't say it might be better for machine learning if you wanted to go the machine learning route, but what it's certainly meant for is mimicking human actions, right? So if you only want to be able to interact with units that are on your current visual screen, something along those lines, then PySE2 is probably the route to go. If you just want to script a bot and make it as strong as you can using whatever is available, I think Python SE2 it will be much easier for you, and you don't need a lot of those features in PySE2. Anyways, I digress. Yeah, so this bot dates all the way back to almost 2 years ago. And it looks like this bot is open source as well. Or at least an older version of it is. Yeah, so let's hop into the game. So Better Worker Rush versus Paul. So I was saying that if Better Worker Rush goes on a bit of a streak, it'll be cool because it'll help me catch up on the games, but we're also going to miss out on seeing what some of these higher up bots can do. So maybe I'm not cheering for Better Worker Rush at all, actually, because I'm seeing some of the bigger names it's about to go into, like Three-Way Lover and even Paul himself, and it'd be a shame to have them just die immediately and not get to see what these bots are about. But such is the nature of this tournament. I mean, very few of these bots get to show off what they're best at because the other opponent bot denies it. So Paul is going for the Nidus Rush build. I know it's a one-base build, right? So we will be seeing a spawning pool. I'm not sure how relevant the spawning pool will be. And it's not like a 12 pool or something. He is getting the Overlord first. So resources are getting higher. It might even be better if he doesn't start the spawning pool, as it'll give him more money to continue making workers. No, it looks like it was an expansion build. Okay, so the expansion gets denied. And I think this is a good thing, right? Now he has 300 minerals to build more drones with. Let's see if there is some semblance of a worker rush defense. Okay, so stacking up and attacking. Okay, this little choke point definitely favors the shield regen sort of defense. He pulled back one worker to mine, but it was a full hit point worker. What I was hoping to see was when workers get red, they go back to mine. And that might buy him some more time. Unfortunately, this larva is not being spent. Oh no, he did spend it all. Okay, so all that money did go into more workers. So huge worker lead for Paul. But so far, the only losses are 2 drones. 3 drones now. And all these workers, they are coming back to mine, so he's going to get more workers, which is nice. Oh, no, it wasn't workers it went into. It went into this. Okay, so units tab right now is 1 worker lead. Almost be better if he gets the cancel on this hatchery, because this hatchery is not going to help Paul at all. Kind of getting to fight these workers more one at a time. I did see a drone go down there. Or a probe go down there. So 3 probes have gone down to the 5 drones of Paul. And there's a bunch of hull damage on some of these too. So some of them had issues escaping once it was denied its shields. Much better engagement for Better Worker Rush here. Facing these drones in a much smaller count. Once again, pulling back when he doesn't have the shields. Ooh, oh, another one goes down. 8 probe deaths to... Or 8 probes against 9 drones at the moment. 2-1 on the kills, but of course there's more drones coming because he does mine a little bit. Unfortunately, this hatchery finished, so that is denying himself 7 probes actually, or 7 drones. 6 to... like 6 that could have been drones with the money you spent on it, and then the drone he actually that actually morphed into it. That is a lot of dead drones. If I said drones and probes correct at all this game? But yeah, that is the second last drone and finally the last drone. So it looks like this hatchery was the end of Paul. I liked the initial idea. I think if he just, kind of like just a moved almost with his drones and then just pulled them back to mining when they got weak, he would have held the first wave. He would have been able to afford maybe, 5, 6 more drones before the second wave of probe attacks hit. I mean, this is the one side good thing about making the hatchery, I guess, is you do get the larva to attack. Look at all those probes in the red. Is there a probe that doesn't have like 80% of its life gone? Like the highest hit point probe has 7 hit points. With all the shields down, it's almost like these probes had the total combined hit points of like 1 full probe. But the combined attack of 7 probes, so. And the shields regen. Anyways, let's speed this guy up. I feel like it's a game Paul could have won. I think if that hatchery doesn't go down to natural, he had a really good chance. He would have been able to maintain making drones, and if you're continuing to make drones, you're going to have more mining. You're going to have more drones survive the attacks, and that will equate to more mining as well. And as long as you have more mining, that'll turn into more drones again. And then if that more drones, it helps you defend, and it means more mining, and eventually you'll deal with the probe rush, I think. But once things start ballooning out of control, like compounding out of control, where all of a sudden you don't have enough workers to defend, so you lose them all, and then when you lose your workers, you lose your income, so you can't make more workers, and that is unfortunate. Let's go ahead, go back here, and see who we got next. So next on the list is Sharpie PvP Easy. Very descriptive bot, Sharpie framework. I guess for start as Protoss versus Protoss, or started as player versus player. I'm not quite sure. Not sure what the easy refers to. Let's click on it and see if we get some more information here. So, yep, just what we said, a Protoss bot based on the Sharpie library. So the nice thing about new bots that use Sharpie is that they start much higher. They can do much more advanced things right off the bat. So a little less effort. It does make the bots feel similar. Like all the Sharpie bots don't differ too much from other Sharpie bots, because there's a lot of Sharpie Protoss bots that just kind of feel the same. But yeah, I mean, any bot author who puts a lot of effort into the bots, their bot will be very unique. I think it just as a starting point, they feel similar. Yeah, so it's going to be Better Worker Rush versus Sharpie PvP Easy. PvP in both Protoss versus Protoss and Python versus Python. And I think we'll keep this video running until the end of the Better Worker Rush series. See how far he can go. Because his games are pretty quick, so I don't really mind if this runs long. Because how long could it possibly go? I don't see like a 20-minute game happening with BWR here. All right, so coming out that next probe. Anyways, in the bottom right, I better do this quick while we still have time. It's red Protoss, Better Worker Rush. His challenger in the top left is the blue Protoss. It is Sharpie PvP Easy. Building an initial pylon. Again, I think it might be a good thing if he doesn't build a gateway, or even if he cancels it. I'm sure a lot of bots cancel this structure once they get attacked. Alright, so I guess it's using the basic Sharpie worker defense. I know the basic Sharpie worker defense sends your workers back to mine once they get to a certain low point. Looks like they're getting a little mixed up on whether they're defending or not, so I guess this is like the threshold. Once you cross that ramp, Worker Rush defense gets turned on. Interesting. That's not where you go to mine. Okay, so he has a little bit of mining here, right? So we might see more probes in the future. Maybe a zealot. I think if he spends his money as soon as he gets 50 minerals, though, he's probably not going to ever get a zealot. And in fact, he may not even get another probe. This attack is pretty constant. Again, pulling back the red ones. I like that. To be totally efficient versus the spot, though, you kind of want to pull back as soon as you lose your shields. You want that, maintain that high health count as your buffer. And I think at this point it's not looking good. Bringing up the units tab, you can see there's only 4 left for Sharpie PvP easy. Still all 11? No. You start with 13. Okay, so Better Worker Rush has lost 2 probes. Yeah, so for maximum defense on a single attack, you do want to pull back when you're low on health. But for this sort of continuous attack versus someone who has the same shielding feature as you want to pull back as soon as you lose your shields. Take as little hit point, as little damage on your health as possible, and that way you can continually do the, attack and pull back when my shields are down. If you waste all your hit points on the first attack before you pull back, then you're just going to die the second time you attempt to pull back. And putting this up to 8x, we have another victim. Unfortunate there. Sharpie PvP Easy did qualify for the last season of ProBots, so he made the top 16. And yeah, he even had a nice little run within there, I think, as well. He certainly won at least 1 round. Maybe even 2 rounds. Yeah, so he's a little bit further down in the ladder at this moment, but he had things swing a little bit on the ladder, and he had his moments where he was a much higher ranked bot. With that said, we didn't get to see him at work. Next up is Three-Way Lover. So Three-Way Lover is a veteran bot. Another bot that hasn't really been updated too much. I think he did a few tweaks for a tournament he was a part of. But despite not being upgraded, this was maintained, top 10 for such a long time. Only recently dropping out of the top 10. And, he was actively developing 3A Lover back when Better Worker Rush was a thing. So he should know about this. Anyways, produced by Yamabushi. There is no bio there. Yeah. Doesn't use a Sharpie framework, just based on Python. Also has the best avatar for ProBots, so a shame that he was not able to qualify for this season. But such is life. When you stop updating your bot, you'll just end up falling behind, as bots are constantly getting better and better. Spawning in the bottom right, we have the challenger. It is Three-Way Lover. Meanwhile, in the top left, the one you love or hate, there is no other emotion available. It is Better Worker Rush. Although Better Worker Rush was my inspiration for doing mineral stacking, where you stack up all your workers on a mineral patch like here and then have them all attack at once. It's something I developed specifically so I could deal with Better Worker Rush. So Yamabushi will not be using the pull back your probes feature when they're low, because that's built into the Sharpie framework, which he isn't using. He could have developed that himself as well, but it appears like he's just kind of A-moving them, which I guess doesn't let up the pressure. It's harder to regen the shields, but you can just retreat, which is what happened here. Better Worker Rush just retreated all the way back outside of the natural until some of them had the shields back up again. The only downside is they're kind of getting their shields up one at a time, so they're kind of attacking one at a time. And when you attack one at a time, you have the threat of dying. Maybe you take all the hit point damage in like one hit because you get surrounded by enemy probes. The other thing is when you pull back by mineral walking. He's probably clicking on one of the patches in here, so it kind of defeats the surround. Anyways, that's a perfect example of why I think this bot could defeat many humans. Because like he arrives with like 13 probes, and you're like, okay, I got 16 workers against your 13. I just A move and win. And look, this is exactly what happened. He A moved with 3 or 4 extra workers, and the end result is that he killed almost nothing. You know, he knocked Better Worker Rush from 13 probes down to 10. And well, he went from 16 down to 0. So another victim. 3-Ray Lover is really good with the Tempest. Would have been nice to have seen that out of him. Tempest is one of those units that like the bot scene has a different balance because certain things are stronger and weaker when in the hands of a bot. And Tempest is one of those things just stronger. Like the ability to always maintain that maximum range. Like you shoot and then you back up, you shoot and then you back up. And yeah, they can be really difficult to take down. They just like slowly pick away at you from range, and you really have to have your bot coded to like stay back, build up, and then just commit and just dive and try to power over the Tempest. Because if you're just doing this little kiting back and forth, you'll always lose the fight. But with that said, we won't get to see the Tempest play out of Yamabushi's 3-Ray Lover. Instead, the streak continues for Better Worker Rush, who hasn't been champion for that long, but his games are quick. So let's actually count it up here. He beat Rusty, right? Rusty beat Stimo and then lost to Better Worker Rush. So that's 1 win, 2 against Paul, 3 against Sharpie PvP Easy, and now 4 against 3-Ray Lover. So that is another 4-0 bot, only the 3rd bot to reach 4 wins. And next up is a powerhouse in additional pylons. Very veteran bot, very strong bot, very unique bot, not using Sharpie framework and written in its own unique way. I like the idea of additional pylons where he kind of builds out all the different tech trees of Protoss, so everything's available, and then he kind of picks and chooses what to build based on what the composition of his opponent. Oh, he's making a bunch of Marines, let me add Colossus. So he's making Mutalisks, okay, I'm going to add in Phoenix. Like that sort of idea. So kind of a neat way to build your bot. There's no game plan at the start. It's more, I'll react to what you're doing. And I say that now because obviously we're not going to see any of that this game. And if things go right for Better Worker Rush, we won't be seeing any of that, period. So... but we'll see. You know, it is a veteran bot. It has been around the time Better Worker Rush was around as well. So, I mean, obviously there's still veteran bots that lose to Better Worker Rush, but a lot of them have plugged that hole. So we'll see if additional pylons is one of them or not. He is a Protoss, right? So he can abuse the same shield mechanic that Better Worker Rush is doing, and he can do it on a larger economy with more probes. I don't believe in miracles, I rely on them. Says additional pylons, the red Protoss standing in the top right hand position, and in the bottom left we have the empty mineral line. It is Better Worker Rush. So even sending out a scout worker, I don't know. They will take the same path on this map. Oftentimes they would take different paths depending on the direction they're going, but he does see the Better Worker Rush and pulls his worker home. So let's see the game plan here. I like the fact that there's no gateway going down. He's at 150 minerals. Yeah, no gateway. No, there's a gateway. Don't do it. Ah. Okay, well, let's see how the probe micro works out here. So pulling back workers as they get low. No, pulling back workers as they lose a shield. That's better. So that's using basically the exact same micro technique as Better Worker Rush. Alright, so that's a good thing. As I get shields, he brings them back to the fight again. It would have been nice if he returned the minerals while he did that, but he may have gotten a few mineral rounds in during that time. So the only difference is Better Worker Rush is staying clustered up, so it's much more likely that he'll get to fight multiple probes at a time. And yeah, 1 probe has gone down thus far. That's a testament to like how When do you ever see Worker Rush going on for this long and only 1 kill? That's insane. But they're both using a good technique. I think the advantage for better Worker Rush is that his units are staying close together. It's almost like the defensive advantage where like your production is very close, where his production is all the way back here. Oh, and they're not mining when they go back either. They're just mineral walking back. Oh, so he's never going to get extra probes out of this. Okay, but now that they're back here, you know, the defensive advantage, I guess, is gone. And in fact, a lot of better Worker Rush's probes are distracted by this pylon. Building a gas geyser. Yeah, so any resources he does get, unfortunately, he's not going into more probes. You know, this could have been 3 probes. This could have been a probe and a half. If these guys are actually mining when they pulled back, it could be more probes. But in terms of the battle micro, you know, he pulls back when he loses the shields, not when he loses one of the hit points. He mineral walks back. That's all perfect. Just positionally, I think it favored better Worker Rush. Although the closer it gets to this mineral patch, the less that advantage a better Worker Rush has, especially when he has probes that are not participating in the fight. No, he's taking another gas. He does have a couple of guys mining. But I guess that means these guys are not participating in the defense, and he has 1 mining gas, which is not helpful. Man, this is so close. Let's bring up the units tab. No, it's not close. He just lost everything. Valiant try. Maybe in a different game, this would be a victory for additional pylons. But yeah, better Worker Rush stayed really close. So anytime he got shields available, they're immediately able to get back into the fight. That was an advantage. Whereas additional pylons, like say the fight was here, additional pylon has to travel all the way from this patch back here to fight. Now, I still think that would favor additional pylons if, while they were genning shields, they were mining. But they weren't. They were just staying stacked on this mineral. So will this video reach an hour or not? We will find out. Because let's just keep going with better Worker Rush, see where we can get to. It is at 5-0 though. One more win, it'll tie Terran 002 with the best win rate. Let's go ahead and load the next replay. Let's see who the next possible victim is. Mad AI, another very strong Protoss bot, has qualified top 16 for different tournaments. Excuse me. And we do have a bit of a bio here. So let's read that. Madbot relies on 5. Oh, right. Okay. So Madbot uses machine learning, actually. He scouts, and based on what he sees with the scout, machine learning will decide which strategy to use. And there's some preset scripted strategies. So let me go ahead and just pause the game. And let's go read that description. So Madbot relies on 5 different hard-coded build orders, which are considered good in particular situations or against certain races. It chooses one of them after approximately 2 minutes of the game, depending on the scouting information it gathers. This information will be used in 3 different ways. First, a deep neural network for decision-making created with TensorFlow and Keras will evaluate the data and will output a normalized value between 0% to 100% for what it thinks would be the most suitable build order to win the game. Second, a random forest classifier, this is all pretty technical, created with scikit-learn will do the same. Third, some manually coded decision rules will be used as additional weights. E.g., if an early expansion was scouted, the decision for a 4-gate will be boosted. While the first 2 were trained on approximately 4,000 games, I'm sure it's much, much higher than that by this point, as this bio is probably pretty old. We're trained on 4,000 games played on the AI, SC2 AI arena and AI arena ladders. So there are two ladders. SC2AI.net just completed its final tournament. It is now merging with AI Arena, and we'll be doing that more in the future. So we probably will get some more content at AI Arena now that they're combined. But I digress. Yeah, so 4,000 games played on approximately 4,000 games played on AIArena.net or SC2AI.net and AIArena.net. The third is based on my humble SC2 knowledge. All three decision values for all 5 build orders will be summed up in order to generate a final build order decision. All data will be sent to the chat in order to evaluate the decision making. So there's going to be some sort of percentage between 0 to 100% in the chat. So we'll get to see how it ranks all the different builds based on what it's scouted. The structure is like this: build order 1, and then in brackets there'll be percentage of the neural network, percentage of the random forest, and percentage of the manual weighting divided by the total sum. So he adds them all up and divides by 3, and that's the percentage you'll see. Okay. Pretty cool. Second, a random forest classifier created with scikit-learn will do the same. Yeah, I'm not sure what a forest classifier is. That's something I'll have to research. Maybe someone more technical in the chat can let me know and put a comment there. Anyways, we are in the game and let's get going. Hitting the play button. Spawning in the bottom left, we have the challenger. It is Mad AI. Now, he's going to make a decision mark at the 2-minute mark, which is kind of late versus this dude. It is the returning champ. It is Better Worker Rush. I believe going for a 6th win, which would tie him with Terran002 for the longest win streak here. Okay, there goes the scout probe. Let's see if he makes a quicker decision based on what he's going to see here. Oh, this is working out kind of well. Will they lose him in the vision blocker here? They do, okay. But that did buy him some time. Unfortunately, that time was spent building a gateway. Which, I mean, if you can get a zealot out, that's strong. But what's the odds? Okay, the gas is certainly not a good idea. So it looks like everything is like heavily scripted until that 2-minute mark. But we do have worker defense, so we do have that at least. Now, we've seen this not go well in the past. Even with the shield mechanics yourselves, we've seen these probes not do well. Okay, so he is pulling back the ones as they are hurt. Once they leave, he goes back to mining. And now if they arrive again, they're back to attacking. But they don't arrive again. Where are they going? Oh, they saw this guy, and they wanted to kill him. So they left. Okay, maybe we will see Zealot. We do have some mining that went out there. He's up to 50 minerals. So 2 more probes probably will get completed. Which isn't a Zealot, but 2 more probes isn't bad either. Oh, this is looking really good. Let's bring up the units tab and the units lost. We can see 2 probes have gone down and only 1 for Mad AI, who already had the worker lead to begin with, but puts him at 19 versus 11, and a little bit more mining got in there. Every time he leaves the base, Mad AI goes back to mining. And you can notice, like, they're fighting over here, but there's still enemy probes over there, so even as Better Worker Rush retreats, he ends up losing probes in the process. So he has lost 8 probes now, leaving with mere 5. Against well micro probes of Mad AI, I don't suspect 5 will ever get any kills. And he's just going to spend most of his time retreating, actually losing another one. No, he didn't. Actually, he killed one of Mad AI's, maintaining his 5. He needs to keep the distraction on because, oh man, even with the distraction. So Mad AI is not pulling all of his probes, but pulling an appropriate amount for what he sees. So if he sees like 5 probes, maybe he pulls 7 of his own, something along those lines, which means he has a lot of mining. Getting up to Cybercore. Now, officially, none of this is taking any advantage yet. Okay, Zealot on the way. That should end this, I would assume. Zealots do quite a bit of damage. The hit points are very low on Worker Rush's probes. If he waits until he runs out of shields, that will be too late versus a Zealot. 3 magic probes. Yeah, Yeah, see, this probe doesn't want to engage until it gets shields. Very good micro, but yeah, it's just leaving when you run out of shields is often too late, because there might be another side blade coming in, and that will end it for Better Worker Rush. The streak is over. So Terran 002 will be the only 6-win bot thus far. That does not make him the winner of this tournament, obviously. He was facing much easier bots. This is about finding the best bot. So it's probably going to be someone near the end who's going to win this gauntlet. Last man standing. But still impressive nonetheless to win against 1 bot below you and 5 bots above you on the ladder. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so that was a long video, but we reached the end of it, and that was quite a few bots we got through in fortunate and unfortunate ways. We didn't get to see some of the cool stuff out of these strong Protoss bots, but one strong Protoss bot made it through, Mad AI, and he will have a challenge coming up facing Sprout, who I think I consider to be the second best Zerg bot out there. Of course, my opinion is heavily weighted towards what these bots do against my bot. And the 2 bots I struggle with the most is obviously Spiny, the #1 Zerg bot, who's way up here somewhere. Yeah, Spiny. But I'd say Sprout is probably the second most difficult one for me to face. So he'll be a tough challenge for Mad AI. Both these bots have been in tournament formats before, so they've reached the top 16, they've reached the top 12. Yeah, and a solid 200 ELO above the average 1600. So yeah, we're getting into the powerhouses now. That will be interesting, but we'll leave that for the next video. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and I'm out of here. Goodbye.